Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of what I guess I'm now calling Critcast, where I'm going to be discussing about Critical Role's Campaign 2 episodes. My name is Shay, to give this chaotic podcast a little bit of more structure. We will be discussing episode 124's events, I guess, or I will be discussing whatever. Still keeping in line with last week's chaos, this is going to be sort of more free form, a little bit unedited, so just bear with me if it's, a bit rambly and a bit of a chaotic mess, but, that's on brand. So quickly, before I go into a brief summary of the episode, I would just like to, give my history with Critical Role and my history with Dungeons and Dragons. I don't really have a history with Dungeons and Dragons. I've never really played any game, but for a while now, for a couple of years now, I've been listening to this Australian podcast called D&D is for Nerds. It's such an amazing podcast. They run D&D campaigns, and it's so amazing. It's so fun. It's a chaotic mess, but that's basically how I got introduced to Dungeons and Dragons. And then one day on YouTube, a recommendation for Critical Role came up for campaign 2, I think. And that's kind of how I got into it. So bear with me if my knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons is not that, good or whatever. That's why it's kind of a new experience for me. And I'm just having a little bit of fun. So let's quickly get into a brief summary of episode 124. Basically, it starts off with the Mighty Nine trying to escape from the previous battle with the Tomb Takers. Their focus is mainly on just putting some distance between themselves and the Tomb Takers, and they're also trying to figure out what to do with the Threshold Crest that they took from the Tomb Takers. They're trying to think, should they destroy it or should they hide it? But they end up burying the crest under snow and then setting up a dome, and finally getting some long-needed rest. When they wake up, they find the crest still where it was hidden, and they try to, keep trying to figure out what to do with it. And they're thinking of transporting it far from the north, because they're assuming that Lucien needs it, even though Lucien has said in the past that he could easily get another crest from the ruins of Aor, which, whatever. He could have easily been lying, but, that's another discussion for later. They end up transporting the crest to Udala Fawn in Rexentrum, so now we can assume, although it's never really actually confirmed, but now we can assume that the crest is with the Cobalt Soul, which would make it kind of difficult for the Tomb Takers to get it back if they do actually need it. So if the crest did actually make it to Udala Fawn, then that puts Lucien's, plans on a bit of a, slower timetable. Anyway, the Tomb Takers catch up to the Nine right after they've sent the crest away, and they cause an avalanche that sends the Nine running towards Essex. And upon arriving at Essex, they warn him of the Tomb Takers, and they find out that he's up north because he's essentially just trying to avoid being linked to the war between the Empire and the Dynasty. Essex offers to help them with a little bit of trepidation and anxiety, and with the help of the Wild Mother through Caduceus, they identify the location for the secret entrance to the ruins. Or I think it's the ruins. I'm not sure. Again, my knowledge is a bit iffy, but I think they find the Tomb Takers need to go somewhere in Aor, one of the ruins or something like that, to finish their mission. Anyway, Caduceus, through the help of the Wild Mother, finds out where the secret entrance is, and now the Nine are aware of the secret entrance, and they're planning to get help from others. And the episode ends with the Nine transporting to Yusa's tower in Nicodranus. Okay, this episode was less anxiety-inducing than the previous episode, and I'm very grateful for that, because the last episode was just, oof, my anxiety was through the roof. But this episode was a lot more chill, and it was so chill to the point where, because usually the episode Where I Am, it comes out at like 4 a.m. It was so chill to the point that the first time I was watching it, I fell asleep. I mean, it was really late. I fell asleep halfway through, and there wasn't that much going on. In my head, I kind of split it up into two. So them is trying to escape from the Tomb Takers, the Nine trying to escape from the Tomb Takers, and then the Nine meeting Essex up north, wherever he was. Don't know the specifics. but let's just go with it. So I really don't have much to say about this episode. It was more chill. It was pretty cool, but I do have 2 points of, I don't know, two interesting thoughts that were going through my head. The first one was, what does Lucien want from the Mighty Nine? What exactly does he want? Like, for me, maybe it's because I'm missing something. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to the previous episode, so I'm not really, I missed some vital information, but why did he go after them in the first place? Because he made it known that he could easily have gone to the ruins and found another threshold crest, right? He said that from the start. Now, it's possible that he could have been lying, but if he actually did need the crest that they have, right, which we assume that that's what he needs, because he ended up stealing their crest and running away in the middle of the night, so we can assume that he does need the crest that they have, right? But in stealing their crest, the Mighty Nine caught up with the Tomb Takers, fought them, and got the Tomb Takers' original crest. So essentially, the status quo hasn't changed, right? I mean, of course, the Mighty Nine are still missing some of their stuff from their bag of holding. But if you look at it, they still have a crest. A crest which we would assume is vital for Lucien's plans if he followed them to get it in the first place. So what was confusing for me at the beginning was, why didn't Lucien immediately catch up to the Mighty Nine? Like, why were they able to have, like, a period where they could have gotten a long rest? Because, again, the Tomb Takers have the Mighty Nine's blood, so they can easily track them and easily get to them if they wanted to. So in my head, I'm just wondering, why did they get that reprieve? It doesn't make sense. Now, I also had this theory where, and it was also floated around, where essentially the Tomb Takers, or Lucien specifically, needs members of the Mighty Nine. That's why he allowed Bo and Caleb to read the journal. But he needs them physically for something. Maybe it's complete the nonagon, whatever. But that, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. I can't remember if Caduceus confirmed or disproved that when he asked, because I think he asked from the Wild Mother, and I can't really remember. Again, shitty memory, not really paying attention, just, going along with it and having fun. But what I'm trying to say is, for me, maybe someone out there can help me clarify this, but what does Lucien want from the Mighty Nine? What if it was, like he said in the beginning, if it was so easy for him to just, go and fetch go and get the crest from, from the ruins, and he didn't actually need them, why would he even run into them in the first place? Now, we can argue that it was because it would be easier to just steal the crest from them, but they wasted time, essentially. So in my head, I'm just trying to figure out why Lucien needed to be with the Mighty Nine in the first place, and if he actually did need their crest and it would be easier to get the crest from them, why did he let them go after the previous episode's battle? And why did he allow them to have that long rest? Because we know that Lucien can watch them at any time. And we know he's super duper powerful. So are the other Tomb Takers. They're ridiculously powerful. So in my head, I'm just still trying to figure, maybe someone can help me clarify this. What does Lucien want with the Mighty Nine? What does he want? Does he need the crest that they have? In which case he should be, ridiculously, crazily after them, even after they escaped from the previous episode's battle, which they kind of weren't. Or he physically needs them, which, I mean, given that he took their crest and ran away in the previous episode without even, he snuck out at night with the other Tomb Takers, I would argue that he doesn't physically need them. So why did he even let them read the journal in the first place? Was it just to get close to them? Or was there some others, I don't know. In this episode, it was more chill, so I was kind of hoping they would go, explore what the eyes on Bo and Caleb, what the implications of that would be, but that didn't happen. I guess they were really busy trying to figure out everything. So yeah, my that was one of my thoughts while watching this episode, is just, it doesn't make sense, because essentially the status quo is still the same. The status quo has been reverted to the night before Lucian stole the Mighty Nine's crest, right? Because essentially they still have a crest. Yeah, so why isn't Lucian relentlessly going after them now? I mean, I guess you could argue that he is, because he caught up to them right after they got rid of the crest, right after they transported it to, was it Eudalafon? Yes, right after they transported it to Eudalafon, the Tomb Takers caught up to them, but why didn't they catch up to them before that? Well, I guess you could argue that they may have needed a long rest as well. I don't know. I'm not that well versed in D&D knowledge. Maybe someone can clarify this for me. Maybe it's just me being, not paying attention and being careless. That's why I didn't get it. Anyway, but that was my thought during the first half of the episode. My thought during the second half, when they finally caught up with Essek, which I've been wanting for so long, because I kind of ship Essek and Caleb, because they're like two sides of a coin. Essek essentially represents Caleb if Caleb had never met the Mighty Nine. And so it's really interesting to see. And I listened to Talks Machina, and Liam pointed out something very, very interesting, where it was like, he doesn't trust Essek. What is he doing up north? Like, it's very suspicious. And like, he represents essentially the worst of Caleb. So that sort of started to cast some doubt in my mind about about Essek. But after watching this episode, I just, instead of feeling very suspicious about Essek, I just felt sad for him. It's really sad. In this episode, he seemed like someone who bit off more than he could chew, and there's no one to help him, and he's just sad and lonely. And that was just it made me really sad. And even when, I think it was Jester who suggested that they could do a true polymorph on Essek, so that he could live his life, he could be free and whatever, he couldn't be so anxious. And Caleb broke my heart when he said, we could change him on the outside, but that wouldn't fix the inside. And I was like, oh my God. And you could tell that Essek really wants to impress Caleb, but he just ends up disappointing him. And Caleb sees him as a disappointment. And it's really sad, because Essek needs friends, right? Essek needs a support system. Essek essentially needs someone to do for him what the Mighty Nine did for Caleb, but he doesn't have that, again, because, and by no one's fault but his own. And so I guess maybe I was kind of hoping that Caleb would, I don't know, do that for him. Maybe not even to be in a relationship, but just to be that friend. And so when Caleb said, we can change the outside, but we can't fix what's on the inside, it broke my heart. And when Matt was like, Essek can't even look Caleb in the eyes, I was just like, oof, so sad. So sad. He bit off more than he could chew, through his own ego, through his own, whatever. And he just needs someone to be friends with him. And I guess I was kind of hoping that Caleb would do that for him, but at first, at least, it didn't. But it was really nice when they were leaving, and Caleb just grabs his forearm and says, you just need some time. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I don't know. I guess I just like redeemable villains a lot. And Essek seems like a redeemable villain in every sense of the word. But yeah, this was a very mellow episode. And I don't know. It took a couple of watches for me to even, form my thoughts. But again, I'm thinking, what does Lucian want with the Mighty Nine? Does he really need them? And if he does need them so much that he, essentially, relentlessly pursued them in the past before, why isn't he doing the same thing now? It just, I don't know, there's a disjoint, and maybe maybe someone can help clarify that for me. And also, my second thought was just Essek. He's so sad, and I'm sad for him, because it's obvious that he needs friends, or else he's going to go through the extreme end of, Caleb's arc, which is essentially straight up villain, straight up bad guy. And I don't want that for him, because I think Essek is one of my favorite NPCs. So yeah, I'm Essek, yeah, whatever. So yeah, that was my thought. Oh, another thing I thought, it was very suspicious when Veth when Veth gave, I think it was Bo, the rusty dagger, and Ford was like, why don't you give her the nice dagger? And Veth went full Gollum. And I just like how like nobody really paid attention to that except for Jester. But like apart from that, everyone's like, yeah, whatever. That's very suspicious. And also just Veth being passive aggressive to Ford during this episode. It gave me life. And it was very fun. It was kind of really relaxing because I've been looking forward to just a chill episode where it's just the Mighty Nine, up to their regular bullshit, chaotic, shenanigans. And it was very nice when Jester called on Artagan, I don't know how they pronounce it differently, whatever. But when Jester called on him and they were just, chilling and having a little bit of a conversation, and it was kind of reminiscent of the easier, simpler, more lighthearted times. And that was a lot of fun. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the previous episode. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think Lucien wants? Like, what does he want? And what do you think is going to happen with Essek? Do you think he's redeemable, or do you think he's going to be, there's going to be no hope for him? Just leave a comment. Let's discuss. Thank you for listening again, and see you next week.